Anybody else getting real tired of all these LEGO Technic sets being this consistently good? Man, this March wave rules. Hello all, I'm Josh, this is Josh Builds Stuff, and today we're talking about the all-new LEGO Technic 2022 Ford GT. This set just came out in March 2023, contains 1,466 pieces, and costs $120 here in the US. That price is a tad steep, so obviously this isn't a set that everyone can afford. GT. At $100, I would love this car. At $120, I still love this car. I just wish it was $20 cheaper. Personally, I don't know a ton about the Ford GT, mostly because it wasn't in any Michael Bay Transformers movies, but I am aware that this is a classic car, obviously. It's been around forever. It's had a resurgence in the last 5 or 6 years with this new second generation of Ford GTs, and that's what this car is based on. This is obviously a 1/12 scale model, meaning if you buy 12 of these cars, you basically have one of the real thing. I'm gonna say this now and probably again later. I think this is the ideal size for these LEGO Technic vehicles. They're large enough to show a whole bunch of detail, but they don't take forever to build. These 1/8 scale cars behind me, it takes so long to build, George R.R. Martin could write 2 novels in that time. My initial thoughts: I think this model does a very good job of capturing the overall shape of this car. It is designed to be very sleek, very low, and has a lot to do with aerodynamics. Heck, Ford themselves call this car the very definition of aerodynamic, which is actually the very definition of hyperbole. Aerodynamic has its own definition. Stay in your lane, Ford. Despite our over or under exaggerations in regard to this car, there is a lot here to love, so let's take a closer look. The real Ford GT has some notable features which are relatively accurately depicted here. We've got an opening hood up front. We have these 2 cool hood vents, again, to contribute to that aerodynamicism. We've got an opening rear engine hatch with the engine decently captured in there. We have these butterfly doors. Personally, I'm not a fan of butterflies. They're not what they used to be. Caterpillars. On the rear here, we've got those round tail lights, the dual exhausts coming out of the middle of the car, a little bit of Ford branding there just in the license plate, and depicted with a couple of stickers. We've got a cool racing stripe down the middle, but most of that is actually pieces. We've also got this mechanized rear raising spoiler. I assume that's how it works on the actual vehicle. Overall, I think this is decently well depicted. Some could say, and probably will say in the comments down below, it's not necessarily as low and sleek as the real car. The real car is very low to the ground and very long. This one, I think, is a little bulkier looking just to be able to fit all of the Technic bits on the inside. Perhaps the most distinct feature of the Ford GT, again, is captured here. There's these weird 2 airflow vents right here. Air is meant to flow over the car, past the doors into these little air duct areas there, and out again the back of the car. Again, this car is all about aerodynamics. Those are referred to as the flying buttresses on this car. I'm sure there's a joke to be made there, but personally, I like to reach for the higher fruit. Every curve on this car has one goal, and that's to eliminate drag. Might as well call it a Republican. So it's beautiful, it's blue, and it's got a great second act. But enough about the Blue Man Group. As for this car, I really like it, but there's a note of hesitation in my voice. That's because, well, I hesitate to say I really like it because I was more excited by the pictures and the idea of this car than the actual execution of this car, but we'll talk a little more about that in a second. The Ford GT is often compared to other supercars, and rightfully so, but I think we forget that the Ford family has its own fleet of vehicles, some of which might give the Ford GT a run for its money. But in my research of these other cars, I found a bit of irony. Strap in. I read a story about a man who crashed a Ford Focus because he was distracted. A Ford Transit was hit by a bus. A criminal was caught in a Ford Escape. A Ford Edge drove over a cliff and landed on a park ranger. A cowboy traded his Mustang for a Bronco, but was later struck by an F-150 Lightning. Someone had a really big accident in a Ford Super Duty. An intrepid explorer went on a continental expedition of discovery in a Jeep. And finally, I heard Tom Cruise used to drive a Ford Maverick, and then he hit a goose. Now he drives a Mustang. Aesthetically, I really appreciate this car from a general sense. I think a lot of car collectors out there, LEGO fans out there, all would agree that this model is beautiful and would look great on a shelf. He said, setting up his next negative point. That being said, I think like other Technic cars we've talked about recently, this one also suffers from that Jesus syndrome. It's a little too holy. Speaking figuratively, of course, there are a lot of divots in areas of this car where, I don't know, they're obviously accurate to the real car because they have to be there, like the vents and the buttresses and whatnot. But the car, which is designed to be completely aerodynamic and has all these crazy smooth lines, well, those smooth lines get a little bumpier on this model. Something that is nice to have at this scale, which we don't always get on the smaller Technic vehicles, is we do have somewhat of an interior here. And the real car is meant to have a very minimalistic interior because it's a race car, but you can drive it on the streets and whatnot. So they really strip down the interior. And again, it's very stripped down here because it's very small. That being said, you still get a couple of details depicted in stickers. The steering wheel has the GT on it. There's even a little speedometer there showing the maximum speed, 216 miles per hour. You can see there's a little Easter egg on that speedometer. It says 2016. I assume that is in reference to the second generation of these Ford GTs being introduced in 2016, which happens to be like the 50th anniversary of when the Ford GT won the first Le Mans race, and then they won it again in 2016 with the new generation of vehicles. Either that or the designers of this set are as big of Gilmore Girls fans as I am, and they were just celebrating the re-release of the unofficial final season, A Year in Life, which happened to premiere November 25th, 2016. Ask me if I had to look that date up. I didn't. The play features of this car are so commonplace at this point with these Technic vehicles, they might as well be middle-aged moms shopping at Target. We've got steering here, again controlled by a gear on the top. Again, that controls a steering column that runs along the bottom of the car. That's been done a lot. This one, again, is not steered using the actual steering wheel. As previously mentioned, we've got opening doors, opening hood, opening rear hood, trunk area, and that shows the engine. And once again, that engine actually fires those cylinders as the wheels roll. Once again, that's being controlled by a differential somewhere up in that middle area. I mentioned before that rear spoiler appears to be mechanized. It can be raised or lowered using a little lever knob on the inside of the car. The final fun feature, and every school principal's favorite, independent suspension. Let's learn about the real Ford GT together and see if we made the right decision by purchasing the LEGO version over the real thing. The real Ford GT starts at about $500,000, which is almost exactly $500,000 more than I currently have, so the LEGO model wins out on price. The real Ford GT has 660 horsepower, which is exactly 559 more horses than I've ever ridden in my life. So point for the real car, I guess. The real car's got 550 feet-pounds of torque, or 76 kilogram meters for the metric system users out there, and I don't know what either of those things mean, so I'm gonna move on without addressing it. The engine in the real car is a 3.5 liter V6. If you filled that space with gasoline, it would be enough gasoline to break the engine. That also bodes true for the LEGO version, which the only comparable part there is that we also have a 6-cylinder engine in the LEGO one. Alright, so you want my real opinions on this car. Here they are. Maybe. The new Ford GT is an impressive vehicle. Can you imagine all Ford board of directors and investors were real car enthusiasts instead of money-driven, greedy people? But personally, I think there's something special about the Ford GT, Mustang, and Corvette. I wonder if it's the story and the history behind it, or just the feel and looks of an American car with performance and style. Sleek and slender with glamour and glory. I think it's gorgeous, and a fitting tribute to send off the GT with. This is one beautiful machine. How I would love to take beauty for a spin. Alright, you want to get in the weeds of my review? Here's my final thought. For the top Ford competing with aerospace tech cars, the pedestrian round, oversized Ford blue round badge should be removed to show seriousness. Why even tell them greedy giants who fail to hold on to even aesthetics? I imagine the car has an old hollow right in the middle of its design. And those are my real opinions. Or maybe those are the opinions of people who are so passionate about the new Ford GT that they're the kind of people that leave comments under Car and Driver online articles. And apparently they're such big enthusiasts that they've packed their brains so full of car knowledge that they haven't left any room in there for the rules of grammar. You want my real opinions? I think the car looks great. It's a decent size. The build didn't take too long. It looks enough like the car it's meant to represent. It's got some fun little play features and I don't know, it's good. I wish it cost a little less, but I like having it. Is that what you wanted? Wasn't it more fun the way I did things the first time? My final thoughts: buy this car if you want to, maybe wait till it goes down to $100 and see the Blue Man Group if they come to your town. As always, thanks so much for watching, like, subscribe, and all that. I'll see you next time. Is that what you wanted? Wasn't it more fun the way I did things the first time? Really had to channel my inner Tiago for that review. Don't use that, cut that out. Or throw it at the very end. Only people who watch to the very end get to see that. Tiago's a great guy. He's very direct, gets to the point very quickly, which is probably why he gets more views than I do.